Crowd still filing in, and the Dodgers take the field. And as you can see, that field is not in the best of condition. It was not covered last night, and they had a rainstorm hit about 4 o'clock this morning, and the ground crew has been working feverishly to get things in shape. And I imagine some of those infielders will be a little yippy when they get a ground ball. Here's the starting pitcher for the Dodgers, a 17-game winner, Ramon Martinez, 17-11, 1-2 against the Giants this year, 5-3 lifetime. He was a 20-game winner a year ago. The starting lineup for the visiting Giants finds Mike Felder in center field, and Willie McGee in right, Will Clark at first base, Kevin Mitchell in left, Matt Williams at third, Tommy Herr at second base, Kurt Manwaring catching, Mike Benjamin at shortstop, and Trevor Wilson, 11-11 on the mound for the Giants.
And supporting Martinez will be Cal Daniels in left field, a big home run in last night's game. Brett Butler, the fine center fielder, has no errors in 153 games this year. Darryl Strawberry with 11 assists in right field. At third base, Mike Sharperson. Over at shortstop, and this is the key position for the Dodgers, Jose Offerman in there for the ailing Alfredo Griffin. Juan Samuel at second base, the ex-Philly. And Eddie Murray at first, 3 Gold Gloves for Eddie this year, or in his career, I should say. And Gary Carter behind the plate. 1,970 starts behind the plate.
And Carter in much better shape physically than he's ever been in recent years. The umpires are behind the plate, Joe West. Eric Gregg will be at first base. Paul Runge, the crew chief, is at second base, and Mike Winters, who worked the plate last night, is umpiring at third. And these umpires called us specifically to say hello to Steve Palermo, who's in the rehabilitation center down in Dallas, and they want Steve to know that they are thinking of him constantly. Here's Mike Felder to lead it off, the former Milwaukee player. And the Giants are 3-4 here in this ballpark. Felder batting .271, has 21 stolen bases. And away we go. Hope you enjoy it. And a strike from Martinez. Martinez struggled in the early part of September, but he's come back lately with some strong efforts, and that's really helped the Dodgers. He's tall and skinny, as you can see. Felder waved at one, and that's strike 2. The strong points of this Dodger pitcher, Tim McCarver, are he can throw hard, for one.
Yep, good changeup, and one of the problems he has is his curveball, his breaking ball. The way he releases the ball will not allow him to have a good curveball.
On 0-2, a pop foul out of play.
Martinez uses his legs a great deal, and most pitchers who use their legs when they are pitching, a guy like Tom Seaver comes to mind. Tom never really had a good curveball, but you can see with Martinez using those legs and dropping down. As a matter of fact, Ron Peronowski, the pitching coach, tries to get him to stay on top, and right there, opening up, that's what happens. Up and away to left-handed hitters.
Affects the release point. The count has gone to 1-2 to the leadoff hitter. It'll be Felder, McGee, and Clark here in the first inning. And 2-2. Felder was in the lineup for quite a period of time as a regular starter, and off and on as of late. He's tough to pitch to, a little guy. 2-2. 3-2. You can see also he's up on the bat handle. He's not interested in home runs, and the crowd already is restless here at Dodger Stadium. You see a lot of empty seats, but they'll be filled ere long. 3-2. Was that a breaking ball, Tim? I think it was. Or it moved, at least. It really jumped.
I think he went with a fastball there to Felder. If you throw a 3-2 breaking ball to the leadoff hitter, you have a lot of confidence in your breaking ball. And Martinez, as we said, forget the breaking ball, fastball, changeup.
And Tom Lasorda sitting pretty, walking down in the dugout area. We'll see a lot of him this afternoon. The batter is Willie McGee. Willie is 4th in the league in batting with a .314 mark. Al Morris of Cincinnati looks like he's going to win the batting title. With Tony Gwynn sidelined. And a strike evens it up. You don't know where the heck to play McGee. He looks left, hits it right. Then he'll look to the right, hit it to the left. He'll bunt. He'll hit a home run. He'll hit those big high choppers, and he can run. Trying to guide one in the left. He's in the hole 1 and 2.
McGee 5 points behind Hal Morris. Terry Pendleton of the Braves only 2 points behind Morris. Willie McGee's already won 2 batting titles in '85 and '90.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out, first inning, and it missed outside 2 and 2.
Al Morris batting .319. Tony Gwynn is out for the year. Then you have McGee and Barry Larkin. Larkin an outside chance. He'd have to get very hot to overtake Hal Morris, his teammate.
McGee won't even get into a conversation about winning the batting title. 2 and 2.
Well, when you think about it, over the last 7 years, Tony Gwynn's won 4 titles. Willie McGee's won 2 batting titles, and Tim Raines won a batting title back in 1986. So if Willie does it, it'll be his 3rd batting title in the last 6 years.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. And another foul. He's tough to strike out. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, our old friend Roger Craig is back in business. He missed 3 games with a heart problem. And he had a little angioplasty, and he said, tell all my friends that I'm feeling aces, top flight. McGee chops it foul again. It stays 2 and 2, and he is making Martinez work. And Bill Fahey, the third base coach, retrieves that ball. It's wet around this Dodger field this afternoon.
Talked about Roger Craig, and when he was in the hospital, he was all hooked up naturally, and when they do the angioplasty, they put it up through the groin, we understand. And the Giants were losing that day, and Roger couldn't reach for the radio to turn it off. They were losing 13-3.
I'd turn it off too.
Right.
He got McGee. I said it was tough to strike out. He made a good pitch on the outside part, and Martinez has manned the first 2.
Here's that riding fastball from Ramon Martinez on the outside part. See the target given by Gary Carter. Martinez is about a run a game better this year with Carter behind the plate.
We'll see if it makes a difference this afternoon. That Carter can really work a pitcher. Well, most good catchers can, and so should the other catcher for the Dodgers. Here is Will Clark. He was greeted by these Dodger fans who were hooting and hollering. Will Clark hit a foul ball. They went straight down and banged him right on the tip of the knee, and he is aching. Strike call, 1-1. It's tough for him to turn on a ball, so last night we saw him hitting the ball up the middle and going the other way. And they're playing him to the other way for Clark, who has 26 home runs. 2 balls and a strike. Felder struck out. McGee struck out. Martinez off and running this afternoon. He blitzed one by him, 2 and 2. Waiting on deck is Kevin Mitchell. Clark, Mitchell, and Williams right in the middle of this Giant batting order. 3 and 2. For a fellow with a big swing, and Clark does have a big swing. He knows the strike zone. And he seldom chases bad pitches. 3 and 2. Out of play. And with a fellow like Kevin Mitchell hitting behind him, Clark is always content to take a walk, Tim.
Yeah, you mentioned the big 3. That's like Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill right in the middle of the lineup.
They can do some things. Another 3-2 pitch. Missed inside and a walk.
Batting point, number 7, left fielder.
Carter sitting inside, and this pitch just missing inside. That was close.
Martinez didn't get the action he was hoping for, and Gary Carter goes out to talk with his hurler. And the subject is Kevin Mitchell. There are times when Will Clark is a big threat to steal, even with Mitchell at the plate. But first of all, the going is a little damp here, and Clark has that bad knee, so he'll probably cut down his lead as Murray holds against him. Mitchell has banged 27 homers. They play him accordingly. Ball one.
Funny, Kevin Mitchell and Will Clark had the same amount of home runs for their career, 143, in a Giant uniform. Actually, Mitchell with the Mets earlier, so Clark with more home runs than Mitchell, but both have 143 career home runs.
Runner at first, 2 out. And Martinez falls behind 2-0.
Well, see, that's the curveball that we were talking about earlier. Talking to Ron Peranowski, Ron is content right now to have Martinez throw just the fastball and the changeup. But look how awkward he looks throwing that breaking ball. And it's an awkward finish, too.
That wasn't a strike, huh?
Looked like an eephus pitch.
Mitchell doesn't know where the next one's coming. 2-0. And ball 3. Well, it started off as an easy first for Martinez. He fanned Felder and struck out McGee, but he lost Clark, and he's 3-0, and Mitchell might be swinging.
I would think so.
Gary Carter looking over into the Dodger dugout before giving the sign. And Will Clark at first, and there's ball 4. You could tell from the actions of the base runner that Mitchell was not swinging. So 2 strikeouts, 2 walks.
That was last Sunday, a game in which he worked 7 innings, giving up 2 hits, and also a game where he hit his first major league home run. Ron Peranowski, the pitching coach of the Dodgers.
And Bill Russell seated behind him. Now they have to deal with Matt Williams. Here's another slugger. He's number 2 in the league with 31 home runs. Howard Johnson has 37, and he's tops in the National League.
You see another couple of high fastballs, you might see a visit from Peranowski.
2 on, 2 out. And a strike into Matt Williams. Williams has driven home 90. With batting mark 255, he's a terrific third baseman. There you see the runners with Clark at second and Mitchell at first. And 2 out in the first, no score. He popped it up foul, and there is a lot of room, and Eddie Murray has a play. That's it for the Giants in the first. And they lead 2 as the Dodgers come to bat against the lefty Trevor Wilson. They're a little bit ahead of us down in Houston. No score after 1. Kent Merker against the rookie Jeff Juden, making his second big league start. Trevor Wilson is the pitcher for San Francisco. His record is 11-11. No record this year against the Dodgers, but he pitched a terrific 8-inning game against them. And he's 2-3 lifetime against Los Angeles. Here's the starting lineup for the Dodgers. And as usual, it's going to be Brett Butler leading it off. He's followed by Mark Sharperson at third, Darryl Strawberry in right, Eddie Murray at first base, Cal Daniels in left, Juan Samuel at second, Gary Carter behind the plate, Jose Offerman at shortstop, and you just saw Ramon Martinez cause 2 men to be left on base. So here comes a terrific leadoff hitter to the plate, Brett Butler. 10th in the league in hitting at .299, but that's not the complete story about Butler. He'll turn on a ball once in a while. He has 2 home runs. They have to play way in to guard against the bunt on the corners, Matt Williams and Will Clark. And this Dodger crowd wants some first inning action. Inside for ball one. This pitcher Wilson is from Torrance, California. So he's very much at home here in Los Angeles. Butler showed a bunt and took ball two. Tim, you mentioned it earlier, and it bears repeating. These Dodgers don't want to go to Candlestick Park next weekend with the division still up for grabs.
They were 2-4, or they are 2-4 this year. They were swept at Candlestick the last time up there.
Butler took a strike, 2-1. Butler, Sharperson, and Strawberry. That makes it 3-1. It's easy to walk Butler, and he'll let you do it.
He's walked 104 times this year. That is tied for first with Fred McGriff of the San Diego Padres.
It's sank low, and that's ball four. And Butler has stolen 38 bases.
Defensively for the Giants, Kevin Mitchell will be in left field, Mike Felder in center, Willie McGee in right, Matt Williams at third base, Mike Benjamin the shortstop, Tommy Herr, who started the season with the Mets at second base, Will Clark, a slick fielder at first base, and Kurt Manwaring behind the plate.
And Will Clark is holding against Butler, who has stolen 38 bases. Trevor Wilson has a pretty good pickoff move. Butler has been caught 27 times. Not a very good percentage.
That's 6 shy of the National League record. Lou Brock was caught 33 times back in 1974, and that was the year that Brock had 118 steals. Then that was the most in a major league record, but it has since been eclipsed by Ricky Henderson.
Butler didn't like the footing around first base, and so he smoothed things out. Time had been called. The batter is Sharperson. Mike's hitting .268 and been platooning at third base with Lenny Harris. And a hard bunt. The play will be to first only. Sacrifice is good. Looks like the Pittsburgh Pirates are playing here today.
Yeah, with Jay Bell, the number 2 hitter. And the Dodgers may be playing the Pittsburgh Pirates a week from next Wednesday in Pittsburgh.
And we are happy to congratulate the Pirates for all they've done. What a wonderful season they've put together, and they're awaiting the winner of the West, either the Braves or the Dodgers. And here's Strawberry. Dodgers hit 3 home runs last night. Strawberry was not one of the contributors. He has hit 25 round trippers. Really tough to beat these Dodgers here in this ballpark.
Well, you don't normally sacrifice in the first inning, but this is not a normal game. Only 8 to play.
Look what Florida State is doing to Michigan, piling up the big points at Michigan. Disappointing a big crowd. And some other football scores for you. And we'll combine football and baseball here this afternoon. Strike to Strawberry. We'll combine the Dodgers and the Giants and the Braves and the Astros. Atlanta pulled one out late last night. 4 in the 8th. That's living dangerously. That'll move the runner to third, and the second baseman Herr throws out Strawberry. And we can go to New York right now and see what's happening with the Braves.
Actually, Jack, it's Minnesota at Toronto. Jays pitcher Tom Candiotti delivers to Greg Gagne. He doubles down the line to score Chili Davis and Shane Mack. It is now 4-0. Minnesota in the 6th. We'll keep you up to date on that Braves game later. Welcome back, Jack.
So Minnesota by 4, and that also means that nothing has happened with regard to any scoring down in Houston, because rest assured we'll take care of that item for you. There are 2 out. The batter is Eddie Murray. Runner at third. And ball 1. Murray 19 home runs. And hitting .261. That's low, ball 2.
It's interesting, the Dodgers are most affected by left-handed pitchers. They have 4 left-handed batters as regulars: Daniels, Strawberry, Butler, and Mike Socha, even though Carter's playing today. But the guy most affected, Eddie Murray. It turns him around to the right side.
And he's a better left-handed hitter.
80 points better this year.
That makes it 2 balls and a strike, and the Giants are throwing 3 left-handers against the Dodgers this weekend, and the same 3 again next weekend.
That is for September. Darryl Strawberry and Eddie Murray tied for 3rd. RBIs in September. Howard Johnson having a terrific year for the Mets. And a big surprise, Benito Santiago. All the fans down in San Diego getting on him, and he has responded with a big month.
And 21 RBIs for David Justice, the Atlanta youngster. Runner at 3rd, 2 out. No score in the first. 2-2 the count. Giants left 2 on in their half of the inning. Wilson yesterday and again today indicated that he's really enjoying this late season activity. When the pennant races get hot and baseball really blossoms. And when the races are all decided, we'll have the League Championship Series and the World Series for you. Outside, 3-2.
Wilson starting the season off in the bullpen. He was 0-4, but he has won 7 of his last 9 decisions. That's over a 14-start period. He's pitched very well lately.
If he loses Murray, he'll pitch to Cal Daniels. And a foul ball keeps it 3-2. Now we see fewer empty seats here at the ballpark as the fans file in. They arrive late here, and frequently they leave early. I don't know how they're going to behave in the midst of a pennant race here. Butler down the line trying to bother Wilson, and looks over there, and another 3-2 pitch. He walked Murray. So the Giants had 2 walks in the first. The Dodgers get 2 walks in their half. 1st and 3rd and 2 out. Wilson shaking his head, talking to himself, and he'll deal with a left-handed batter, Cal Daniels. Daniels' home run here last night was his 17th of the year. And he has some opposite field power. He's difficult to defense, and they play him a little bit around to the left.
Daniels with 15 opposite field home runs last year. That led the majors. Tremendous power the other way, along with Strawberry.
And hitting room through the right side, and the pitch inside to Daniels, ball 1. There you see the runner over at 3rd, Brett Butler. You see the outfielders shading Daniels a little to the left. There's the hitting room through the right side as Murray runs the bases there. No score in the first. That caught the strike zone, 1-1.
Wilson has really had a tough time in the first inning. He's given up 24 first-inning runs.
Hasn't been burned yet in this one.
Only Jim Deshaies of the Astros has been worst in the first.
And now he's ahead on the count to Cal Daniels, 1-2. Worst in the first, Jim Deshaies of Houston, and then Trevor Wilson. He's a deep sigh, and he's about to get the sign from Kurt Manwaring. 2 on, 2 out. And the throw to get Murray, who had a very short lead. Four walks in the game and no hits. Wilson ahead on the count. And strike 3 call by Joe West, and the inning is over. Each team got 2 walks, and each team left 2. And after 1 inning here at Dodger Stadium, no score.
There are some absolutes in baseball, and one is that you cannot be run from a big game. That ball was high enough. It appeared to be high enough, and you could see this coming. Cal Daniels, first he throws his bat there. Then he throws his helmet. That's an automatic $100 fine. There goes the helmet and the gloves. That's $100 fine, and now he's run. But in fairness to Joe West did not follow him down the line. A lot of times umpires have gotten into trouble in past years for following a hitter, but in fairness to West, he didn't do that then.
Here's a line drive to short, hit by Tom Herr and caught by Jose Offerman. So we have a new left fielder, and that is Mitch Webster, the switch-hitting outfielder. So Cal Daniels has been kicked out. Tom Lasorda came out and said to Joe West, how can you kick a guy out in the midst of a pennant race? Well, it was like the Clemens thing in the playoffs last year, Tim. The same rules apply. He said the wrong thing.
Now, I personally, I think it was different last year with Clemens. That's my opinion on that. But as far as Daniels is concerned, that's a call strike. I mean, that's one pitch. As far as Clemens and Cooney were concerned, it was more than one pitch.
But the rules don't change. You say the wrong thing, you're gone. The batter is Kurt Manwaring. There was a fine for throwing the bat and the helmet, but is what he said to the umpire, which caused Cal Daniels to be ejected from this game.
You're talking about Tommy Lasorda talking to Joe West and saying, how can you kick him out? What's Tommy going to say to Cal Daniels at the end of the game?
This ball is popped up by Manwaring and called for by the left fielder, and he caught the sun and made the catch. Butler probably should have chased him away. And there are two out.
Here's Mitch Webster, not expecting to start today, and now all of a sudden his first chance is the toughest chance so far in this game, fighting the sun. And I agree with you, that was Butler's ball.
It hung up there long enough for Butler, who hasn't made an error all year, to take charge on that one. Two out, and Mike Benjamin is the batter. Ball one outside and low. Benjamin in there with the Uribe injured last night. The ball took a peculiar hop and struck him on the right thumb. He's out. Martinez fastball evens the count. Well, the U.S. was leading after the first day in the Ryder Cup matches, and they've increased their lead now with the second day of action down in South Carolina. Martinez got that one in there, 1-2.
That's one thing. You're not going to see this game end up like that, 7.5 to 4.5.
1-2 with two out. 2-2. Benjamin, a light hitter, up and down between the minor leagues, Phoenix and the Giants. He is hitting 133. And less than that now. And the inning is over, and after 1.5, no score. There's no doubt that it's the game of the year to this point in the National Football League. And most of you will see the Bears and the Bulls. Thurman Thomas leads the AFC in rushing. Jim Kelly leads the NFL in TD passes. Both teams undefeated. Gets underway at 12:30 Eastern with the NFL Today, and that's the last word before kickoff. So plenty of baseball excitement, and then football mañana. After an inning and a half here, no score, and Juan Samuel leading off. Ball one from Trevor Wilson, and there have been no hits in this game to this point. Samuel hit a home run here last night, number 12. 2-0 the count. What a different hitter this fellow is, Tim, from last year and the other time he spent with the New York Mets.
Predominantly right field hitter, and that's why Felder, the center fielder, is shaded over into right center. Ben Hines, the hitting instructor, spreading his stance out. He's not nearly as spread out now as he has been most of the season.
So you saw Atlanta and Houston scoreless in the second, and Minnesota winning their game at Toronto. The Minnesota magic number is only 2. We'll be congratulating them very shortly. And in the American League, Minnesota will get the extra game in the playoffs. It starts at Minnesota. Samuel to third. And Matt Williams with a fine throwing arm guns him out as Clark does a little dance at first base.
Batting seventh, number 8.
When you're spread out as far as Juan Samuel, you don't need to stride. As a matter of fact, you can't stride. All he does is pick his left foot up and put it down. He hit that ball sharply to third. Nice play by Williams.
And a good play by Will Clark at the other end. Everybody thinks about his offensive statistics. He's a terrific first baseman. Here's Gary Carter. The Dodger catcher hitting .249. And a strike. There's a little bit of a flap out here when Carter thought he should have been starting in some previous games, and Socia got the call. Another bouncer to Williams. And that's 2 out, and let's go to New York and see what's going on.
And let's go to Houston and see what's going on. Atlanta at Houston. Atlanta pitcher Kent Merker strikes out Andy Mota. That's right, that's Manny's kid. Luis Gonzalez is left stranded at second. We go to the third, no score. Now back to the ballgame.
Scoreless there, scoreless here, and 2 quick outs. And Jose Offerman coming up, looking for the first hit of this game. Have to admire Tom Lasorda sticking this young player in there at shortstop. He could have played Lenny Harris, but he gives Offerman the start and the chance. Ball 1.
Well, Lenny Harris, a left-handed batter against the left-handers, so you take something away from your offense. And I think the key point is Ramon Martinez is a fly ball pitcher, so I wouldn't look for Offerman to have that many chances today.
And he'd like to get a hit or two and add to his 185 batting mark. And Trevor Wilson certainly doesn't want to walk him. It's 2-0. That's 3-0.
Offerman, a big story last year in that he did not hit a home run in Albuquerque, the AAA affiliate of the Dodgers, and yet in his first major league at bat, he homered, and he has not hit a home run since.
Has none this year. Took a strike, 3-1. He has a flair for the dramatic. The Dodgers' shortstop position has been porous, to say the least. They played Griffin there, and Harris, and Offerman. Now Offerman took a strike. He tossed the bat away, thinking it was ball 4. It's 3-2.
I guess when you use that word porous, you have to spell it, right? P-O-U-R-O-U-S or P-O-O-R-E-S-T. Both it's been this year. 36 errors the most, and that's the point we were trying to make about Jose Offerman starting the game. In his 22 starts, again, he's made 10 errors.
So he's a little shaky. Outside, that is ball 4. And that's the third walk by Trevor Wilson. He walks the number 8 man, and that allows the pitcher to bat in this inning. Ben Hines coaching down there at first. He's the hitting instructor for the Dodgers. So even if Martinez does nothing with the bat, that will allow Butler to lead off in the third inning. Offerman has stolen 3 bases. Martinez hit a home run a few days ago, and he's had 9 hits this year. And a strike to him.
Not bad for a guy who says he doesn't even like to hit. Doesn't even like to hit. He has been quoted as saying that in a home run last Sunday against the Braves when the Dodgers won 3-0.
And that's strike 2. He looks like he doesn't enjoy hitting.
Well, you know, he used to be a right-handed batter. He hit right-handed and left-handed last year, but now he's going left-handed all the way, but he exposes that right arm when he does it.
He strikes out and becomes the second victim for Trevor Wilson, and the Dodgers have left 3.
As you may expect, it is a lot tougher for a young player to be involved in a divisional race. But 3 guys who are doing very well as rookies: Chuck Knobloch, the second baseman of the Minnesota Twins; Phil Plantier of the Red Sox. Look at his September. And Juan Guzman, I beg your pardon, who is 4-0 in September. He won his 9th game last night. So 3 rookies who are doing exceptionally well in our around the horn today.
Here we go into the third inning of this scoreless game. The Giants here at Los Angeles. And they're in the bottom of the third at Houston, and no hits in that game either. Trevor Wilson has a dozen hits for the year. Pops a foul out of play, and it's strike two. It'll be the pitcher, Wilson, and then Mike Felder and Willie McGee here in the Giant third. Wilson pops it high in the air for Strawberry. One out.
Now, continuing with the around the horn, what about the more established players? Look at Paul Molitor with 200 hits again after an 8-year absence. No other major leaguer has done that. Honus Wagner came as close. He had 7 years between 200 hit seasons. When Juan Berenguer went down, the Braves had to have another savior in the bullpen, and they have one, Alejandro Pena. 7 saves in September. And Barry Bonds, another MVP year. He could get it.
That seems to be the sentiment around the league. A strike drops in there to Mike Felder, who struck out his first time. And Ramon has retired the last 5. 1 ball, 1 strike. Still the fans arriving here at the park. We're in the third inning. A late swing, 1 ball, 2 strikes. There you see it. They're piling in, or all 3 of these games were sold out, as it is for tomorrow. And then San Diego comes in here for 3. Inside 2-2.
Mentioned Martinez. He is the 3rd youngest starter. That is a guy with over 20 starts. Darryl Kyle and Alex Fernandez of the White Sox, both younger than he, but because of his success last year, winning 20, you don't think of him as being young, but you do think of him as being thin, but not frail. 173 pounds, 6'5". Mike Downey of the Los Angeles Times had an article the other day, said he was built like an exclamation point.
Thin as a soup in a boarding house. Skin of a new potato. That's 6 in a row retired by Martinez. And ball 1 to Willie McGee, a strikeout victim his first time. And to complete that little ditty, Tim, for exercise, he takes a dive into a ripe tomato. Oh me, oh my, he often lost his breath, fell through a hole in the seat of his pants, and darn near choked to death. Here's ball 2 to Willie. McGee started the day at .314, 4th in the league. And now a strike. I guess I handed the batting title to Hal Morris a little too easily earlier, Tim. It's anybody's battle. Look at this. 20-point win for Florida State with a tomahawk chop. And Miami winning in the second quarter at Tulsa, which has pulled off an upset already this year. We are in the top of the 3rd inning. 2 out, nothing shaking, no score, no hits in the game. 3-1 to McGee. Ball 4, he lays off and draws the 3rd walk given by the Dodger Hurley. The biggest happening thus far in this game was the ejection of Cal Daniels, who argued about a called strike, threw the bat through the helmet and said the wrong thing, and he's been kicked out by the plate umpire, Joe West. It bears repeating, Tim, Joe West didn't go looking for an argument.
No, he really didn't. I mean, Joe West is, as a matter of fact, Joe West was one of the more aggressive umpires last year. He was the one who threw Dennis Cook down, the pitcher who is now with the Dodgers, but then with the Phillies.
Here's a well-hit ball by Will Clark into left center field, and gone. 2-0. A walk and a home run. Bad knee or no bad knee, and the Giant fans who have made the trip whoop it up. That's the 16th home run hit against Martinez. And number 27 for Clark. by Will Clark.
Not, however, when Ramon Martinez is pitching. He is now 11 for 26 for his career against Martinez.
Boy, he smashed that ball into left center. Kevin Mitchell bats with the bases empty. 2-0 Giants, and that's out of play.
Here it is right here. Jack talked about his big swing earlier. What is impressive about Clark is how he finishes. He almost finishes like a golfer. He finishes up high with his swing, and that ball finished up high about 8 rows back.
I'll say. Looked like a harmless inning until McGee walked with 2 out. Mitchell corks it to short to Offerman. He with that ball off to the side, but he got his man. And the Giants scored 2 runs on only 1 hit. A nasty combination if you're rooting against the other club. A walk and a home run. We'll return to Dodger Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. It is a beautiful day here in Los Angeles and at Dodger Stadium. Brett Butler leading off in the bottom of the 3rd, and Trevor Wilson gets ahead. Strike 1. Butler walked in the 1st. Still hitting .299. Here's our score, and down in Houston, nothing doing after 3. Out of play by Butler, strike 2. And those Atlanta players will take heart when they post those 2 giant runs on the Houston scoreboard. Butler has tailed off in September. He doesn't like that.
I think he's tired. He's played every game. 397 at-bats, plate appearances official now. Walk in the 1st inning. Remember, we did the Brave game, the Brave-Dodger game a couple of weeks ago, and Brett was complaining of a sore lower back. He said, but once the game begins, all those aches and pains go away, and then they return after the game.
When the game is over, here they come again. 2-2. Butler, the 2-strike hitter. He was straightened up by Trevor Wilson. Butler, Sharperson, and Strawberry here in the Dodger 3rd.
Little inside fastball to get Butler off the plate.
How about chin high? Wilson and the Giants leading 2-0. Back to the pitching.
Well, it has been a banquet and a feast all season long for the Dodgers, but the Giants trying to end their party. How many times have they done it before? Well, obviously, the Bobby Thompson shot heard round the world against Ralph Branca in '51. 1962, a playoff game, or actually 2 out of 3 won by the Giants. Then in '71, the Giants winning the last game. Marichal won that last game of the season. And then in '82, the home run by Joe Morgan against Terry Forster, beating the Dodgers and knocking them out, and Atlanta won it that year.
That was '82, and the only time Atlanta has won since they moved from Milwaukee to Georgia. Now here's a strike to Sharperson. Well, they won in '69 and then '82. But they've yet to get into a World Series since becoming the Atlanta Braves. Trevor Wilson stumbled off the mound and stopped, and some of the fans yelled balk, but cannot commit a balk with the bases empty. Strike 1, the count to Sharperson. 1-1, and Wilson is pitching aggressively. Leadoff man is gone here in the Dodger 3rd. And Sharperson hits it to Matt Williams. That's the 2nd out of the inning. Dodgers are still looking for their first hit. They've been given 3 walks. They've been unable to cash in. And San Francisco enjoys the fact that Strawberry is batting with the bases empty. Grounded to second his first time. Ball 1. We did that Braves-Dodger game 2 weeks ago, they put a radical shift on against Strawberry, but nothing of that sort here. Easy inning as Herr throws out Strawberry. Now we played 3 innings, and on the home run by Will Clark, the Giants lead it 2-0.
You're watching CBS Sports coverage of Major League Baseball.
In the first inning, Cal Daniels argued about a called strike 3. He was kicked out of the game. This is what transpired between Daniels and the plate umpire Joe West. And a walk to McGee and a home run by Will Clark for our only runs, and Martinez. And the Dodgers are trailing 2-0 as we go into the 4th inning. Matt Williams leads it off. A pitch inside, and he yanked it foul. Williams fouled out to first base his first time. This pitcher, Martinez, has struck out 4, walked 3. Williams with 31 home runs. Top of the 4th. Another of the big sluggers in their lineup. Clark has 27 home runs, same as Mitchell. Williams 31. Breaking ball low and away.
And that was that awkward breaking ball from Martinez. You can almost see it. It is so difficult, once again, for him to throw that pitch. If you're a hitter, you just look for the fastball or changeup. Of course, those are 2 superb pitches.
Look out, a base hit whistles through the mound. That's only the 2nd Giant hit, a leadoff single by Matt Williams.
Second baseman,
We have a sellout crowd here at Dodger Stadium. We're in the top of the 4th. The Giants trying to get even in this series and even things up for the year between the 2 clubs. The Clark home run came in the 3rd, and we just had the leadoff single by Matt Williams here in the 4th inning. And they're in the 4th inning at Houston, and the Braves are scoreless. Merker pitching against a rookie right-hander, Jeff Juden. Leadoff hit by Williams, and Herr the batter. And a strike to him.
And Tommy Lasorda, we understand, are rather upset because Jeff Juden was pitching, and here he's held the Atlanta Braves hitless through 3 innings.
Yeah, you never know. But Tommy
That's
was
right.
a little ticked. He said he didn't pitch him against us.
The Dodgers, on the other hand, will be facing the youngster Brian Hickerson tomorrow night. So, I mean, you know, teams have to worry about themselves and their own development also.
Leadoff single by Williams, and a ball outside to Tommy Herr. Williams has stolen 4 bases.
It has been customary throughout baseball to play your best lineup when you're playing a contender in September. Well, sometimes that applies, but you can't do it at the expense of development. And here Jeff Juden has he had a no-hitter through 3. I don't know if it's through 4 or not, but Houston has scored in the bottom of the 4th inning.
So the Giants are ahead, and Houston on top. And Matt Williams gets back in. You can see how damp the infield is here because of that 4 a.m. downpour they had. Now the score goes to 2-0 with Houston leading Atlanta. So 2-0 here, 2-0 there. And 1-1 to Herr. Lined out to short his first time. There goes the runner, and on a hit and run, ball is shot into the Dodger dugout. I get a kick out of these players. The fans try to catch those foul balls. There's Tom Goodwin trying to get out of the way. What are you doing, he said. And there's Stanley Javier. It's funny, isn't it, Tim? The fans try to catch him, and the players run away.
That's because the players know how hard it hurts when they try to catch a ball without a glove. I'll tell you, when you don't have a glove on your hand, you feel naked. That's why those guys are running for cover over there.
We get the news that down in Houston, Ken Caminetti drove in the first run, and Gonzalez drove in the second. Nobody out with a runner at first, and the pitch is high. Pat O'Brien is standing by in New York. He's a little bit like Deion Sanders, football and baseball.
He is the two-sport star of broadcasting, right?
Dr. O'Brien.
Pat will be on the NFL Today tomorrow and working baseball today. So he's either Deion Sanders or Bo Jackson. Take your pick.
Let's see if they start the runner again. Her is a good man to have at the plate on a hit and run. Not going. And a foul keeps her up there 2-2. There's a changeup from Martinez.
And Martinez is not really a good guy against whom to hit, to use the hit and run. And the reason is he doesn't throw many ground balls. As a matter of fact, he's only thrown 6 double play balls in 136 double play situations. That's obviously less than 2 outs and a runner at first and second, and the bases loaded. There you are right there. Pete Harnish is the only guy who has a lower ratio of double play balls.
Harnish down in Houston. 2-0 Giants here in the 4th. Outside to her, 3-2. You know, the Atlanta Braves really didn't like the fact that they had to go to Houston and play a 3-game series. They won last night, but it's tough to win for some teams in that Astrodome.
Yeah, the Braves go to Cincinnati. They play at Riverfront Stadium Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, and then back home next weekend to end the season in Houston, and they just want to be alive when they get back to Atlanta.
They're in a ticklish spot now, trailing by 2 games and trailing 2-0 in the 4th at Houston. 3-2, and the runner will go. There he goes, and hits it to first. Murray has no play at second. And it's a good thing Murray was holding against that runner, or that ball would have been a double. Let's go to the aforementioned Pat O'Brien.
All right, Jack, thank you. A little video scoreboard watching for you. Bottom of the 4th, Ken Cavanetti doubles down the line. Jeff Bagwell scores all the way from first. That made it 1-0. The Astros added another run. It is now 2-0 in the 4th inning. This is Deion Sanders in New York. Back to you.
Deion Sanders in New York. Deion rode in a helicopter from the football field to the baseball stadium this past week. The pregame show covered that. Deion didn't enjoy the helicopter trip. The batter is Kurt Manwaring. Fly to left his first time. Runner at second, 1 out. Giants already leading 2-0. Broken back ground ball to Samuel, and that is the second out. Runner to third. You can hear the bat shatter up here.
Deion Sanders, by the way, not with the Atlanta Braves, since the Atlanta Falcons play tomorrow in Atlanta. And one would imagine that Deion would join the Braves in Cincinnati on Monday night. Is that a strange situation?
I'll say. First time ever. He's got some paychecks coming in, doesn't he? Now the runner's at third, 2 out for Benjamin, who has 2 home runs and 8 runs batted in. Number 8 hitter. Fly ball into left for Webster. Fights the sun and makes the catch, and the score remains 2-0 Giants. Bottom of the 4th coming up.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering. Sharp Electronics Corporation, from sharp minds come sharp products. And by Milwaukee's Best. Here's to the best, Milwaukee's Best.
Here at Dodger Stadium on a home run by Will Clark, the Giants lead it 2-0. And after 4 in the Astrodome, it's the Astros 2 and the Braves nothing. At the conclusion of this game, Tim McCarver and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will then donate $1,000 on the player's behalf to the Special Olympics. Juan Samuel will be up in this inning after Murray, Daniels, then Samuel, and the first pitch. Wilson gets ahead. Florida State demolished Michigan at Michigan by 20, and Miami opens up the gap against Tulsa by 18 at the half. Wilson has been pitching inside here. A couple of more college scores. Oklahoma having a tough time with Virginia Tech, but leading by 3. And Georgia Tech jumps in front of Clemson in the first quarter. That would be an upset. Murray walked his first time. Takes strike 2. Murray, Webster, and Samuel. Al Daniels has been ejected from this game. In on him and down. A good pitch and a strikeout. 5 in a row by Trevor Wilson. Tomorrow on the NFL Today, you'll learn a little bit more about Mike Ditka. What's he like behind closed doors? His players have that story. And who should be the quarterback with the Giants? 2 all-pro quarterbacks. They'll tell you what they think. And more about Deion Sanders tomorrow on the NFL Today at 12:30 Eastern. The last word before kickoff. Greg Gumbel and Terry Bradshaw, Leslie Visser, and Dr. Pat O'Brien. Out of play by Webster, his first at bat. Al Daniels struck out in his only plate appearance before being kicked out of this one. Webster has been doing a good job off the bench for the Dodgers. Switch hitter. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And a much better right-handed hitter than he is a left-handed hitter. There's Boston. I guess big news at Fenway today since the Toronto Blue Jays are losing 4-0. Boston are actually at Milwaukee. They play Milwaukee next week at Fenway to end the season. Or prolong it, depending on what happens this week. But when you think about it, the Blue Jays had a 3.5 game lead back in 1987. They had 7 games to play. They lost the last 7 in a row, and Detroit won the division on the last day of the season.
That's their margin over the Red Sox starting the day today. High fastball from Trevor Wilson, and that gets Mitch Webster, and the Dodgers are still looking for their first hit.
Second baseman.
Fastball out of the strike zone right here. Most swinging strikeouts are on pitches out of the strike zone because hitters are trained to hit the ball in the strike zone, and they get a little anxious with 2 strikes on them, and they're more inclined to go after bad balls. Pitching is staying ahead and then expanding the strike zone.
And getting the breaking ball over, as Wilson just did to Juan Samuel. Juan grounded to third his first time, hit the ball hard. His hitting is tailed off. That's strike 2. This is nothing new for Trevor Wilson. Against the Dodgers on August 9th, he threw 8 scoreless innings. He didn't get the victory, but the Giants won the game. So he knows how to approach these Dodger hitters. And he's on his way to an easy 4th. And he's been pitching like that all day, Tim. In on those batters.
Came inside to Brett Butler. He came inside twice to Eddie Murray. If you don't pitch inside, you're not going to win in the big leagues. It's that simple.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Juan Samuel. And a strikeout, and Wilson struck out the side. He has 5 Ks. He's retired 7 in a row. The Dodgers have no hits after 4, and they trail 2-0. Will Clark is homered here, and the Giants lead 2-0 after 4. Sid Bream has hit a home run for Atlanta. That makes that 2-1 in the 5th in favor of Houston. And here is Wilson fouling the ball off, attempting to bunt. And you saw those standings in the National League West. It's a 2-game lead for the Dodgers over the Braves.
And by no means a lock, because you can see what has happened through the years when a team with 2 or more game lead and 8 or fewer left, what's happened. And they are rather epic stories within stories. The Cardinals overtaking the Giants in 34. 1938, the homer in the Gloman. 1959, the Dodgers ended up against the Go-Go White Sox. We have mentioned the Dodgers and Giants in 62. And in 1964, the Philadelphia Phillies 6.5 games in front with 13 games to play. And then actually 3 games in front with 6 to play. And the Cardinals overtaking them, and the Blue Jays we've talked about.
And we shall see if history repeats itself in that American League East race. Trevor Wilson applied to right his first time, and he has a 2-2 count. Broken back ground ball, and the pitcher has to cover. Samuel to Martinez, putting out. Pat O'Brien has something for us in the way to York.
All right, Jack, let's go to the Dome and show you this one. Sid Bream, a full count, hits that solo shot for the Braves, cuts the Houston lead. It is now 2-1. And they are in the 5th inning. From Pennant Central, let's go back to you guys.
Now around to the top of the Giant batting order. Mike Felder has fanned twice. His pitcher Martinez has struck out 4, walked 3, and allowed 2 hits. One of the 2 hits, a home run by Will Clark, following a walk to Willie McGee with 2 out in the 3rd. Now strike 1. Strike 2.
Ramon Martinez, not the only one in his family who is a pitcher and a good one. As a matter of fact, the Dodgers have signed 2 of his brothers. Jesus, who is a left-hander, he weighs 142, and Pedro, a right-hander, weighs 150. So nobody in their family weighs a lot.
No. Slim pickings at the dinner table. Ball 1 to Felder, who's in danger of fanning for the 3rd time. He's happy. He's not going to quarrel with that umpire. He learned he learned his lesson when he saw what happened to Cal Daniels. And Eddie Murray, who makes the play to the pitcher. And there are 2 out here in the 5th. Felder can get down the line. So Murray didn't want a chance making the play to it by himself. Murray, by the way, it's the same thing with regard to Will Clark. You think about his hitting, but he is an excellent first baseman. Rather passive sort. Hard to make him smile. I've tried a dozen times. 2 quick outs here in the 5th. And here is, come on, smile. Here's Willie McGee. Strike 1. McGee struck out, then he walked. It looked like a harmless 2-out walk in the 3rd, and then Will Clark came up, and on the first pitch, bang, and away it went. And it's 2-0 Giants in the 5th. He was jammed, and he hits it to Murray. That was easy for Martinez. Bottom of the 5th, 2-0 San Francisco. Dodgers looking for their first hit, their first runs. They trail 2-0. Roger Craig on the Giant bench, and he really enjoyed beating these Dodgers. He used to pitch for the Dodgers. He's had a miserable year, Tim. They never have been at 500.
That's after winning the National League pennant 2 years ago in 1989 and then losing 4 straight to Oakland in the Earthquake World Series.
They lost their first game of the year and never did reach 500. They start this day 18 games out of first. And the leadoff batter, Carter. 2 Felder, 1 out. Made good contact, but it carried on out. The batter is Jose Offerman.
We mentioned Offerman with 10 errors in 22 starts. This is his 23rd start. And last night, one of Offerman's errors that loaded the bases.
Looks like he's playing Irish football. But the Dodgers overcame that and won the game. Here's the number 8 hitter, Offerman. Drew a walk his first time, and Wilson has retired 8 in a row. It's a strike in there. In the 9th, Minnesota by 5 as Minnesota tries to get closer to the clincher, and Milwaukee, tough to handle, leading Boston 2-1 in the 6th. So Blue Jays might be catching a break there.
Well, that game on Thursday in Baltimore, a rescheduled doubleheader after 2 rainouts, and Clemens won game 1 2-1, and then in game 2, the Red Sox had a 5-1 lead. They had a 5-4 lead in the 9th inning with 2 outs and lost that game 6-5. That was a backbreaker.
And here's another strikeout for Trevor Wilson. That's his 6th of the game. He's retired 9 in a row, and he'll deal with the pitcher. And Trevor is breezing in this game. Minnesota beats Toronto 5-0. Magic number down to 1, and the White Sox play tonight, so this could be the clinching day for the Twins. What a story that is. What a story for Andy McPhail and his Minnesota Twins. Martinez, as Tim McCarver told you earlier, doesn't enjoy hitting. Struck out his first time, and it's strike one now. And that's strike two.
When can we start talking about the no-hitter? I mean, the guy's got a no-hitter. Here it is, 2 outs in the 5th inning.
And he can't wait to get the ball back. He's waiting for these hitters to get in there.
I guarantee you, when you got a no-hitter through 4 2/3, you like to pitch, and pitch fast.
0-2, strike on the corner. That's 7 strikeouts and 10 in a row. No hits for the Dodgers after 5, and they trail 2-0. We'll return to Dodger Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. The Giants are leading here 2-0 after 5. Trevor Wilson must have thought he was going to church when he walked into the dugout. He walked in and nobody talked to him. Matt Williams alongside, and Norm Sherry, and then Manwaring, but even then nobody spoke with him because he has a no-hitter after 5 innings, and Will Clark leads it off in the 6th. Ball 1 from Martinez. Clark has walked and hit a 2-run homer. The off-speed pitch makes it ball 2.
You know, it's not nonsense when you have a guy like Trevor Wilson pitching a no-hitter and nobody talking to him, but you don't want to bring it up. But I mean, where does that stop? I mean, do people in the stands, do they not bring up a no-hitter? Certainly announcers, we're accused of jinxing a guy if we mention it. The whole thing is nonsense, obviously.
It is.
Superstition.
3-1 to Clark. By the way, Trevor Wilson, at whom you're looking, took a no-hitter last year into the 9th inning against San Diego. Mike Pagliarulo broke it up.
Mike now with the Minnesota Twins and having a terrific year.
And he'll be in the playoffs. And ball 4 to Will Clark. Leadoff walk in the 6th. Let's go to New York and Pat O'Brien.
All right, Jack, in Milwaukee, Willie Randolph singles in Bill Spires, who had singled in Jim Gantner. The Brewers added another. It is now 3-1 in the 6th. Minnesota beats Toronto. They have clinched a tie now in the AL West Division title. Let's go back to you guys.
Those Minnesota Twins might clinch it today, and they would be the first team since 1890 to go from last place to first place. Now that's something.
That's when Louisville of the old American Association went from last in 1889 to first in 1890. That was when the American Association was a major league.
So the Twins are making history. Leadoff walk to Clark. Kevin Mitchell 0 for 1 at the plate. He turns that bat loose quick and strong. He walked his first time. Grounded as short his next. Has a hip problem. Pinch hit last night and in the starting lineup today. Strike 1 to Kevin. Base hit into left field. And Will Clark motors for third, and Webster throws. Safe, and it's first and third and nobody out. A bad knee or not, aggressive base running by Will Clark.
I think the reason Clark tried it was because Webster is a left-handed thrower. A play close to the line is a lot tougher for a left-hander than a right-hander. A right-hander backhands the ball, plants, and throws to third. But Webster taking more time as a left-handed thrower, and Clark takes advantage of it.
We talked about his hitting, and he has shown us that, and his fielding. Add to that his base running prowess. And Matt Williams up in a big RBI spot for the Giants. The pinch runner is Darren Lewis. He's running for Kevin Mitchell, who had a walk and a single, 1 for 2. And there's nobody out here in the Giants' 6th. Infielders have to play back, look for the double play. Williams has a single out of 2 trips. And he tried to go to right with that swing. It appeared to me strike 1. It looked like he tried to poke it through the hole on the right side.
31 home runs. I don't know. It looked like a lot of times that'll happen as you see Kevin Gross warming for the Dodgers, because a pitcher makes it happen. I mean, a guy like Martinez throws so hard that I'm the other way. But some pitchers make you do it because they throw 95 plus.
First and third, nobody out, and another hit. That's 3-0 in favor of the Giants, and still nobody out as Clark, who walked, crosses the plate. He wasn't trying to go the other way that time. So Will Clark scores the 3rd San Francisco run. And Tom Lasorda watches the sad proceedings.
If you're an Atlanta Brave fan, I guess you would be saying that he tomahawked that ball to left field. And be saying it proudly as the Giants tack on another one.
3 runs on 4 hits for the Giants with a chance to make it a big inning. And Martinez on the ropes. At the plate, Tom Herr. 0 for 2, line to short, grounded to first. And he might be bunting. Might be.
Yeah, the thing against that would be the lower part of the order, Manwaring and Benjamin. And there's no way you'd pinch hit for Manwaring because Wilson's got a no-hitter going, and you don't want to break up the battery.
They expect the bunt on the Dodger infield, and Herr takes a strike. Eddie Murray playing way in tight.
With runners on first and second and nobody out, if you don't want to bunt, a reasonable alternative is a hit and run. But as we said earlier, Martinez throws a lot of fly balls, and a hit and run is not really a good play, or that good a play, against a pitcher of his type.
First and second and nobody out. And the Dodger fans are dismayed here. They'll be turning their attention to Houston even more so, where Houston is leading Atlanta 2-1 in the 5th. Minnesota beat Toronto today. Outside to Herr, 1-1. Herr much travel now at his glory years with the Cardinals.
Started the season as a starting second baseman for the New York Mets.
And before that, he had been to Minnesota. He was a pinch hitter last night, unsuccessful. Looks like they'll only get 1 out at second and no other play. First and third, 1 out.
I think your play's to third base there. It's unusual, but that ball wasn't hit that sharply. No chance for 2. A guy like Griffin, a more experienced shortstop, I think goes to third. When a shortstop has to come in that far to make a play with nobody out, with 1 out you go to second, with nobody out I think you go to third, and Sharperson looked like he was expecting a play at third base.
You're right, he was looking for it. And we have another pinch runner going down to first base. It's going to be Robbie Thompson. He's going to run for Tom Herr and perhaps stay in the lineup.
And the reason for that particular type of philosophy, there you see Robbie, is you want to keep a runner off of third base with less than 2 outs. So it's not that sophisticated a play, but you have to be thinking about what you're going to do with the ball if it's not hit to you hard.
And the rookie didn't do it. And that was a play. You're right, Tim. It's first and third and 1 out, and Martinez pitching to Manwaring, who's 0 for 2. Has driven in 19 runs this year. They pitch out, but Thompson wasn't running. And Roger Craig, by the way, loves the squeeze play. He's about as fond of the squeeze play as any manager in the National League.
And if he's not going to do it, sometimes by pitching out early in the count, you talk him into it.
And, of course, you help the hitter who gets ahead on the count.
Right.
It's 3-0 Giants here in the 6th. Thompson is a good base runner. He didn't start today because of an injury to his left hand. Over at third base is Darren Lewis. And Robbie Thompson at first. Manwaring has sacrificed 7 times this year, so he's adept at that department of the game. Foul ball evens the count 1-1. Manwaring is, for the most part, an opposite field hitter, and the Dodgers are playing accordingly. You look down at Bill Fay, the third base coach, and we'll see if there's anything going on in the world of trickery here. Foul and a half swing, and Martinez could certainly use the strikeout. 1 ball, 2 strikes. This started with a walk to Clark. A first and third single by Mitchell. RBI single by Williams. Wheeler's choice by her. 2 pinch runners aboard. Aaron Lewis at third and Robbie Thompson at first. One ball, 2 strikes. Big at bat for Kurt Manwaring. And that ball is caught, and there's no other play. 2 out. He was jammed, and how? 2 out. And it'll be up to the number 8 hitter. With the score still 3-0 Giants. Mike Benjamin comes up. This fellow's beaten the path between Phoenix and San Francisco. Up and down, up and down. Can never take the job away from Uribe. Uribe sustained an injury last night. We get word that Kevin Bass is doing okay. He had a little stiff neck after that automobile accident last night. Here, the foul ball by Benjamin, who stroked it hard. In the dugout with the sunglasses is Kevin Bass. He was in a car with his sister last night, and they were rear-ended, and he has some soreness around the neck, and nothing more than that. That's good news. First and third, 2 out. And they play Benjamin to the opposite field. Out of play, strike 2.
Because when you think about mishaps in automobiles, you think of the Atlanta Braves also earlier this week. A DUI charge on Brian Hunter, the fine first baseman, and Kevin Mitchell's cousin, Keith Mitchell, in separate incidents. So that is the third automobile mishap of the week, but the first 2 obviously much more serious in that it involved alcohol.
0-2 to the count to the batter, Benjamin. Runner goes from first. The throw from Carter. The runner trying to come off. Scores, and it's 4-0. A double steal for the Giants, and Offerman lost the play when he lost the ball.
It should be an error on Offerman, but it probably won't be, because Williams will score after Thompson slides into second base, and I would imagine it'll be a double steal. But clearly, Williams breaking later, and Offerman tried to throw it before he had it.
Now here's a smash to third, and Sharperson gets Benjamin for the final out. 2 more big runs for the Giants. 2 runs on 2 hits, and 1 left. 4-0.
This is what happens when a young player tries to throw the ball without getting control of it. Watch Offerman. The ball pops out of his glove, and right there, he thinks he still has the ball. But he reaches in there, and it's only leather. And Darren Lewis scored. I said Matt Williams. It was Darren Lewis, the pinch runner.
With the 4th run for the Giants, who lead 4-0, 6th inning, and Brett Butler leading it off. 0 for 1 with a walk. Houston batting in the 6th against Jim Clancy. Houston leading 2-1. Easy out for the second. Oh! Bench. Thompson let it go. Butler trying for 2. He is safe. Thompson just into the game as a pinch runner. Stayed into play second, and you saw what happened.
It was similar to the play that Jose Offerman made. You saw Offerman trying to make the throw before he had it, and just credit Brett Butler. That's stealing a base right there. He's not going to get credit for a stolen base, but it's a two-base error because he ran hard out of the box.
That was terrific running by Butler. And the leadoff man is on for the Dodgers, who trail by 4. And the batter, Mike Sharperson. Ball 1. That really hurt. There's still no hits for the Dodgers in the game. And that snaps a string of 10 in a row retired by Trevor Wilson. But still no Dodger hits. Ball 2. Mike Felder moved from center field to left. And the pinch runner who stole home, Darren Lewis, takes over in center. And out comes Roger Craig, the manager of San Francisco. And there's Thompson, who's playing second base and just made the error. Craig wants to talk with his young lefty.
And it's pretty obvious what he wants to talk about. Just don't let the error bother you. You have a 4-run lead. Know where you are.
Roger Craig came to the ballpark today wearing cowboy boots, cowboy hat, big silver belt buckle. Wilson, 15 consecutive scoreless innings versus the Dodgers. Two 2-0 to Sharperson. He might take a strike. He was taking all the way, 2-1.
Here's Brett Butler right here. Now, you see how he makes the wide turn? He didn't even slow down. He saw Willie McGee going after the ball, thought he had a good shot, and when you're 4 runs down and you take that chance, you got to know that you're going to make it, and he did.
Something of that sort can really spark a ball club. We'll see what comes of it.
Certainly sparked the crowd.
Woke them up. Giants 4 runs on 4 hits. Dodgers no runs, no hits. Sharperson bounces it to Clark. The runner goes to third, 1 out. And Sharperson is 0 for 2.
It's funny how the game goes. It's a weird game sometimes. Had Brett Butler stayed at first base, Clark is holding him on, and the Dodgers end up with their first hit, runners at first and third, and nobody out. But Butler is penalized for hustling into second base, because now with Clark off the line, it's an easy play. Strange game.
Under the category of you never know. But Wilson comes back and gets his first out here in the 6th, and now faces Darryl Strawberry. Infielders back, 1 out. And a swing of the bad ball, strike 1. This Dodger crowd alive for the first time. It's vastly different than the scene these days down in Atlanta. With the Tomahawks. There's the line score, 6th inning. Inside to Darryl, 1-1. Twice Strawberry is grounded to second. I mentioned earlier the Dodgers have the edge over the Giants for the year, 7 games to 6. Foul out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Remember, earlier in this game, Cal Daniels, the Dodger outfielder, was ejected. So they lose a big part of their attack there. Butler at third, 1 out. 2-2. You know what this big crowd wants from this fellow, Strawberry? He has hit 25 round trippers. But against Wilson, 0 for 8 this year. To the first baseman, and Butler messes up and doesn't score as Will Clark makes the second out. A very poor base running by Brett Butler.
Followed by brilliant base running. A decision that is wrong. Look at Clark. He's back in his position. Any ground ball to the right side, Butler should be going. He takes 1 step, he stops, and now it's too late. You see him in the bottom of your screen.
No.
A mistake by Butler after some brilliant running going into second base.
No matter what Butler had done, Clark would never have thrown to the plate.
Right.
Here's a swing and a miss by Murray with 2 out.
Well, you're trained regardless of the no-hitter, and Wilson still has his no-hitter. But regardless of that, Clark just goes right to first base. You're trying to win the game. The no-hitter, if it comes, that's great, but you're trying to win. That's number one.
Butler could have walked to him, and Clark would. There's a hit and a run for the Dodgers. 4-1. Well, Butler feels better about that now.
Yeah.
That's a pick-me-up.
Yep.
The first hit against Trevor Wilson comes with 2 out in the 6th.
Fastball away to Eddie Murray, who is having just a whale of a September. His 23rd RBI in this month. That leads the Dodgers. Entered the game batting .337 in September.
And that's the first hit of the day for the Dodgers, who have Mitch Webster up there rather than Cal Daniels. Webster 0 for 1. Out of play. With 2 out here in the 6th. And Will Clark never stops trying, does he? He's shown us a little bit of everything today. Hitting, fielding, base running. He's an excellent player who, because of the knee injury, is losing status as the potential MVP in the league.
Injured that knee by hammering a ball off his right knee on September 6th. It's going on 3 weeks that he is injured that right knee.
Eddie Murray at first, 2 out. Webster looks at strike 2. Clark holding against Murray. Webster has delivered some clutch pinch hits for the Dodgers in recent days. Remember, it's Felder in left and Lewis in center. Just missed inside, 1-2. Well, this has been a busy baseball afternoon. Minnesota won at Toronto. Houston leading 2-1 in the 6th at home against the Braves. And the Giants leading 4-1 in the 6th here, 2-2 now. And next week, next Saturday, we'll be back at it. We're going to be able to pick the best game available. And we'll show it to you on CBS next Saturday afternoon. And then into October with the playoffs starting Tuesday, October 8th. After the League Championship Series, the World Series on CBS. Webster another foul, 2-2. Those playoffs start in the American League. Most obviously, Minnesota. There's another story in itself. Boy. And congratulations to Tom Kelly and company closing in on the Western Division title. Over but low, and Webster displayed a good batting eye. Now the runner will go with 2 out. Will Clark plays behind Eddie Murray. Mitch Webster trying to come up with a big hit. 2 out, 3-2. Strike, he got the breaking ball over. And the 8th strikeout for Trevor Wilson, who pitched around the error at the end. He gave up 1 run, 1 hit, 1 error, 1 left. We played 6, and the Giants lead it 4-1. We are underway in the 7th. Houston leading at home after 6, 3-1 over Atlanta now. Our score here, Giants 4, Dodgers 1. Martinez pitching. And the pitcher is up. The strike called, and now a swinging strike 2. Alfredo Griffin whiling away the time. He is injured with a bad knee, and Tim, I was surprised to hear he may not play until next week. I thought another day or two, but perhaps more than that.
And I think Tommy Lasorda will start Lenny Harris if a right-hander pitches. But the youngster Jose Offerman certainly involved today in the scoring of one giant run when he couldn't handle that throw from Gary Carter.
So the Giants have 2 runs on a home run by Will Clark. They swiped a run with a double steal and Darren Lewis crossing the plate. And they also picked up the other on a base hit by Matt Williams. And now Trevor Wilson strikes out and will send you all the way back to New York.
Ron Gant doubles down the line. Some aggressive base running fellas here by David Justice. He scores. This is Gant's 100th RBI. It is now 3-2 Houston. Back to you.
So they have a close one down there in the Astrodome. 3-2 in favor of Houston. And Minnesota defeated Toronto today 5-0. Minnesota magic number is 1. They might clinch it and will clinch it if Chicago loses tonight. Toronto at the moment still 3.5 ahead of Boston. And Boston trailing at Milwaukee. Batter here, Mike Felder, 0 for 3, and the count 1-1. On the corner. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Scoreboard operator here is trying to anticipate Joe West. He can't guess right here. The pop foul, and it's going to come out of play. Giants 2 in the 3rd on the Clark home run, 2 in the 6th against Ramon Martinez. Dodgers waited until the 6th inning with 2 out before they got their first hit and run. Trevor Wilson has struck out to start this 7th inning. Felder leaning, but it's 2-2. The pitcher Martinez is due to bat 4th in the bottom of this inning, so Lasorda would like to see Ramon get through this 7th. Into center field for Butler. That will be the 2nd out. Well, tomorrow is the NFL on CBS and doubleheader excitement. First, most of you will see this year's hottest teams, the unbeaten Bears and unbeaten Buffalo. Then the 49ers take on 2 old friends, Ronnie Lott and Roger Craig, both with the Raiders here in Los Angeles. The action starts at 12:30 Eastern with the NFL Today, the last word before kickoff. Baseball today, football mañana on CBS, and a foul by Willie McGee. And college football, 20-point win by Florida State over Michigan. And Miami trouncing Tulsa. Virginia Tech hanging in there against Oklahoma. Willie McGee shoots it to center on an off-speed pitch that was up. And that allows Clark to bat.
You mentioned Roger Craig in that football game. That obviously not the Roger Craig that's here today. I mean, think about one city for a long period of time having 2 Roger Craigs in the same city. One in baseball and the other, the fine running back for so many years with the 49ers.
And the 49ers still haven't really solved their running problem. Steve Young doing a great job. You folks will watch the 49ers and the Raiders tomorrow. Will Clark is up. They don't like him here in Los Angeles. He walked in the 1st, popped a 2-run homer in the 3rd, walked and scored in the 6th. You always know when Will Clark is in the lineup. Runner at first, 2 out. That evens the count, 1-1.
That is a swing that typifies the type of swing that Clark has. Will told us that, you know, he uses the lower part of his body to swing the bat. I know a lot of people find that a little strange, but watch how he uses the lower part of his body in that beautiful swing. We talked about the extension of the hands.
He bounces one to second. It's fielded by Samuel. And in the middle of the 7th inning, the score remains 4-1 Giants here in Los Angeles. The San Francisco pitcher, Trevor Wilson, has entered this pennant race in a big way. Through 6 innings, he has walked 3, struck out 8, allowed 1 run, 1 hit, takes the game into the bottom of the 7th inning. 4-1 the Giants lead. 2 out in the top of the 7th. Atlanta batting at Houston. Houston leading 3-2 in that one. And the batter, Samuel. And you know what the standings were at the start of the day. The Dodgers sitting in a pretty good spot, but not commanding. A 2-game lead over Atlanta. Each team 8 to play, including this one. 1-1 to Samuel now. Atlanta has tied the game in the 7th inning at Houston. Greg Olson, who snapped the tie last night, has driven in the tying run with a triple. 3-3 in the 7th. There are 2 out down there. There is no one out here in the 7th. And this is the fun part of the year, Tim, and it only gets better from here on.
Yep.
Samuel, 2-1. Up the middle. That's only the 2nd Dodger hit. But it comes from the leadoff man, Samuel.
Samuel, who loves to extend his arms, does so. And he hits it to the right of Robbie Thompson. Even had Robbie come up with that ball, no chance to get Samuel at first.
Only the 2nd Dodger hit, and now they have to put something back to back. Robbie Thompson didn't start the game. Samuel on base, but his club trailing by 3, and Gary Carter, the batter, 0 for 2. That missed ball 1. Jeff Brantley from Alabama out in the bullpen for the Giants. Leadoff man on base. Carter way out in front of the changeup. 1-1.
Carter, one of 7 players who went over 2,000 hits this year. 2,029 hits for Gary Carter. That is the most players, by the way, that have ever gone over 2,000 hits in one season.
And Gary Carter displays his longevity. Samuel draws the throw.
Gary, along with Willie Randolph, who could lead the American League in hitting. Dale Murphy, Willie Wilson, Paul Molitor, Brian Downing, and Alan Trammell.
They'll have a banquet for those people at the end of the year. Leadoff single by Samuel.
$2,000 a pop.
Yeah. Runner on first and nobody out. Way out in front again, 1-2. The left fielder, Mike Felder, who started the day in center field, is tucked into the corner. It's a strange spot, it appears to me, Tim.
Well, you don't. He's playing Carter too much to pull, and you see Wilson keeping the ball away from Gary, and Mike really too deep. I mean, with 2 strikes, Carter will probably shorten up. The experienced hitters do that. They don't swing from their heels anymore. They just try to make contact. But Felder much too deep and left.
Carter hits it to third, booted by Williams, and only 1. Hey, they get them both. Carter couldn't get down the line, and despite the boot, a double play. Let's go across the nation to New York for an update.
All right, Jack, in Houston, Greg Olson hits a shot to that new plastic barrier at the Dome. A year ago, folks, that's a home run. Today it's a triple, but it scores Ron Gant, and it is now all tied up in the 7th, 3-3. Back to Jack and Tim.
So we have 2 good games going. 3-3. Atlanta has caught Houston in the 7th. Now the bases are empty behind Trevor Wilson following the double play. And the batter, Jose Offerman. And Wilson goes to the hard stuff. Offerman has walked and struck out. He just really appears to be enjoying this afternoon, Tim.
Well, I should say so. He's got a 2-hitter and a 4-1 lead.
Nothing fidgety about his approach to the Dodgers. Time had been called.
Gary Carter's 11th double play in which he has hit this year, and even though the bobble by Williams and the quick pivot by Thompson, Juan Samuel sliding hard into second base, but Thompson used the bag to protect himself, and that's why he was able to make that pivot. Second baseman used that bag, and what that does, it prevents the runner from blowing through and taking them out of a double play. Good play by Thompson.
And 1-1 to the batter. Underneath the glove of Williams, who thinks he should have had it. That's a hit. That's the third of the day for the Dodgers. Because of the bunt threat, Williams playing in tight.
Here's what we were talking about with Robbie Thompson using the bag for protection. Watch how he pivots off of his left foot, weight on the right foot, and thereby Samuel can't take him out of the play. That's why he was able to make the pivot and turn nicely. A nice recovery by Williams on the play.
Right, the bobble put the runner right on top of the middle infielder, Thompson. But he got it away, a la Bill Mazeroski. He used to play that bag so well. We're going to have a pinch hitter. It's Jeff Hamilton. He is batting for Ramon Martinez here in the 7th with the runner at first, 2 out. And Martinez pitched 7 innings. 4 runs, 5 hits, struck out 5. And he walked 3. His teammates trying to get Ramon off the hook here in the 7th inning.
There is that big brace on the left knee of Jeff Hamilton. He missed most of last season, rotator cuff injury, and this year, the medial collateral injury. That's on the inside of the left knee, and you can see just how big that brace is.
So he's pinch hitting in a key spot here in the 7th inning. And it's a foul, strike 1. Hamilton's going to have to work hard to get his job back from Sharperson and Lenny Harris, who have been platooning that position.
I think his first problem is to get his health back. You do that first, and then you worry about the position. But it has really been a tough 2 years for Jeff Hamilton, a guy that I always thought had the defensive ability and really could swing the bat. Strong, got power. But now with the 2 major injuries over the last 2 years, it's really going to be tough over the next several years.
Time goes by slowly for those players on the DL. Hamilton has had only 2 at-bats since coming off the disabled list. Runner at first, Offerman, 2 out, bottom of the 7th, 4-1 San Francisco. Williams handles this one. Watch this arm. Nothing to it. We played 7, and the Giants lead it 4-1.
This game summary is sponsored by Budweiser.
And as we go into the 8th inning, we look back. Will Clark hit the 2-run homer in the 3rd. Cal Daniels was ejected in this game. And Trevor Wilson has allowed only 1 run unearned through 7 innings. And Ramon Martinez will take the loss if the Dodgers fail to rally. New pitcher for Los Angeles is Kevin Gross. And Tim, this guy has been valuable as a starter and a reliever.
Signed as a free agent during the offseason. He pitched most recently with Montreal. You saw his record, 10-10. And in relief today, but he has started, and the Dodgers using only 6 starters all year. They're the only team in the major leagues to use that few of starters. 6 starters, the regular 5 and Kevin Gross. And of course, you've got to include Oral Hershiser also. He'll start Monday against the San Diego Padres.
First up against Kevin Gross, Darren Lewis, former Oakland player. He stole a base. He stole home in the 6th inning. Entered the game as a pinch runner. This is his first at bat. And Gross pumps one in there. We're in the 8th, and it's 4-1 Giants. They've out hit the Dodgers 5-3.
And there it is, the 6 starters for the Dodgers. No other team in the major leagues has used as few starters as the Dodgers have this year.
Pitch low and away, a ball and a strike to Lewis.
Also, the Dodgers have always had good pitching, not only since they moved to Los Angeles, but even back in Brooklyn.
Lewis takes ball 2.
Since 1956, that's the last 36 years, the Dodgers have led the National League in earned run average 17 times, almost every other year since 1956. They have always prided themselves on their pitching, and they're leading in ERA this year, too.
Strike 2 to Lewis. We saw 2 of those pitchers, Don Drysdale, who broadcast for the Dodgers here today, and Don Newcomb. Best staff in the National League. Fewest home runs, best ERA, lowest opponent's batting average, fewest runs allowed. Don't score many against the Dodgers, but the Giants have 4 today. Lewis stays up there with a 2-2 count. This batter is in what they call a slump. He's 1 out of 38.
He actually took over the job when Mike Felder. Darren Lewis, a fine young player, but has really struggled, and that is not unusual for first-year players. Matter of fact, Lewis came over from the Athletics, and Felder did such a good job, but then in the middle of July, Lewis took over, and you say 1 for 38, and that's not good.
Ooh, you can't even figure it. 1 for 39 as Kevin Gross gets him with a low breaking ball.
If you've had some time in the major leagues, you'll realize you'll get another shot. But when you're young, untried, untested, like Darren Lewis is, looking bad on that breaking ball, then you've got to establish yourself in the major leagues. Kevin Gross went through it. Everybody has that period through which they go, and Darren Lewis is going through it right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's when you don't sleep, and you can't wait to get to the park. Then you get here, then you do nothing, and you don't sleep the next night either. 4-1 Giants in the 8th, and Matt Williams is up. All 1 to him. Williams has 2 hits and a run batted in. Never easy to play these Giants. That's why the Dodgers want to get it done as quickly as possible if they're going to get it done. They play 3 at Candlestick Park next weekend. Here's the schedule. That's it for the Dodgers. 1 here against San Francisco, 3 here against San Diego, and 3 at Candlestick Park after today. High pop fly hit by Williams, called for by Offerman. And there are 2 out.
The Atlanta Braves, on the other hand, will play obviously playing in Houston today. They play there tomorrow afternoon, and then play 3 games at Cincinnati. And then after an off day next Thursday, they close the season against the Astros in Atlanta.
In Atlanta. So let's look at some scores and see what else has transpired. They're 3-3 in the 8th. Braves at the Astrodome. And there's 1 out here in the 8th. Minnesota defeated Toronto. Cleveland beats the Yankees 5-4. Milwaukee in the 9th with a lead over Boston. So the Red Sox missing an opportunity. If they lose, will still be 3.5 out. And Toronto must feel this is one of their lucky days. Batter and hitting for the first time is Robbie Thompson. Entered the game as a pinch runner. Gets a hit into left center with 2 out. And for San Francisco, their 6th hit of the day. The big one, a 2-run homer by Will Clark. Dodgers still haven't made up for that one. So a good base runner aboard for the Giants, and Kurt Manwaring the hitter.
Yeah,
0 for 3.
A good base runner is not necessarily a fast base runner. Robbie Thompson is not a fast base runner, but he's an excellent base runner.
Kevin Gross will have to pay attention to him with 2 out here in the 8th. Entering a big swing and a foul ball.
If your talent's minimum, your judgment and mental capacity has to be maximum. And that's how you train yourself to be a good base runner. You don't have to be fast, but your judgment has to be impeccable. Dick Groat comes to mind as one of the finest base runners that I ever saw, and a guy who couldn't run, an All-American basketball player at Duke. He's not a fast runner, but an excellent base runner.
Not fast, but quick. Here, the 1-1 count to Manwaring. Kevin Gross in his first inning of work, following Ramon Martinez to the hill. This Dodger crowd staying around, hoping for a late rally. They are quiet now as Kevin Gross tries to take the game into the bottom of the 8th with a 4-1 score in favor of the Giants prevailing. Runner going, and off the glove of Carter. Thompson stops at second. Throw a stolen base. And the runner at second, 2 out.
We've seen 3 times today players try to throw the ball before they had it. Offerman, Robbie Thompson, and now Gary Carter. Even though that ball was sliding away from Carter. Watch the ball slide away. That's a cut fastball right there, and that ball kept sliding off the webbing of Gary. Stolen base for Robbie Thompson, his second of the afternoon.
And Carter goes out to talk with Kevin Gross, talking about the approach probably to Manwaring with Benjamin on deck. And Thompson perched at second, 2 out. Boston lost. Milwaukee 4-1. Minnesota beat Toronto 5-0. So Toronto maintains their 3.5 game lead. The American League East. Offerman throws him out, and we're going into the bottom of the 8th with the Giants still on top 4-1.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Budweiser. Nothing beats a Bud. And by Toyota and the all-new Camry. Funding for the closed captioning of the CBS Major League Baseball schedule provided by Toyota and CBS.
We are into the bottom of the 8th inning here at Dodger Stadium. 4-1 the Giants lead. Now tomorrow, the NFL is on CBS with a doubleheader. First, most of you will see the 2 unbeaten teams, the Bears and Buffalo. There's also another undefeated team, of course, but these 2 are undefeated and getting together. And the 49ers take on the Raiders. And they'll be trying to stop Roger Craig and Ronnie Lott. The action starts with the NFL Today at 12:30 Eastern Time. The NFL Today is the last word before kickoff. Here it is 4-1. Bottom of the 8th. They've played 7 at Houston, and Atlanta's tied 3-3 there. The big story here is Trevor Wilson, who has 1 complete game this year and has allowed only 3 hits going into the bottom of the 8th. And it's the top of the order for the Dodgers. That means Brett Butler. What's he going to do? Will he be punting? Will he be trying for that big gap up the middle? Trying to pull the ball. They play him to the opposite field. He's 0 for 2 with a walk. And he fouls one away against Wilson. Matt Williams comes in even tighter to guard against the bunt. And even when you play in that position, Butler will try to get one down. A ball and a strike.
What he tries to do, he tries to find the seam. If the third baseman's on top of him, he tries to bunt the ball between the pitcher and the third baseman. And then if he's going to take the ball with him to the right side, it's between first and the pitcher to where you make the second baseman field the ball. There's really no way to bunt it into the position and get a base hit.
Butler has 21 bunt hits this year and 184 during his career. And he'll bunt even when he's ahead on the count. 3-1. He's trying to get the crowd alive. Big crowd here at Dodger Stadium, a sellout. unlike their ordinary practice, they are not leaving early. 3-1. 3-2. Butler doesn't mind hitting with a 2-strike count, so he took it 3-2. This is the top of the Dodger order. Sharperson and Strawberry to follow. Leadoff hitter in the 8th. Ball 4. Let's go to New York and learn about the Red Sox.
All right, Jack, in Milwaukee, here's the final out. Ellis Burks flies out to Robin Yount. 4-1 Milwaukee. The Red Sox blow a golden opportunity because Toronto, of course, lost to Minnesota today. Boston still 3.5 back. Let's go back to you, Dad.
Thank you, Pat. Those Red Sox, Tim, are really missing some golden opportunities.
The Red Sox with 8 games left and Toronto with 7. And Toronto ending the season in Minnesota next weekend.
A leadoff walk, and it's Jeff Brantley, the right-hander. And Dave Rigetti, the southpaw, getting ready for the Giants. Here comes Roger Craig, and that might be all for Wilson, who just walked Butler. There was a 4th walk given by Wilson. He allowed only 3 hits to this point. He has struck out 8. He's saying to himself, why did I walk that man?
A lot of times what determines whether a manager is going to take a pitcher out of the game is how slowly he walks to the mound with guys warming up in the bullpen. Of course, if you bring in the right-hander, you're going to see Lenny Harris off the bench, and that looks like who he's going to go to, Jeff Brantley.
Brantley comes in with a leadoff man on base, and the Dodgers trailing by 3 in the bottom of the 8th. We've got a good one here.
This relief break is sponsored by Rolaids.
Jeff Brantley into the game and relieving Trevor Wilson. Well, a fellow displays a lot about his intestinal fortitude when he performs in a game like this, and he did very well. 7 innings, 1 run unearned, 3 hits, struck out 8 and walked 4, and turns it over to Brantley, who is 5-2 with 13 saves.
I think Brantley's in there for 1 hitter unless he gets Harris out. He may face Strawberry if he gets Harris out. If not, I think Rigetti will be in the game to face Darryl Strawberry, who's on deck, because he would represent the potential tying run if Harris gets on.
Rigetti, whom we showed you earlier, still in the bullpen, and Lenny Harris is up. Inside for ball 1 from Brantley. He is batting for Mike Sharperson. Sharperson was 0 for 2 with a sacrifice. As a pinch hitter, 3 hits. Usually an opposite field hitter. There's hitting room through the right side. And he pops it up for the first out of the inning to the shortstop, Benjamin. So Brantley does his job against his first hitter. Let's look at some of the top relievers in baseball. 43 saves for Harvey, 1 more than Eckersley. And Lee Smith got number 44 last night. Mitch Williams has 30. Well, Strawberry is up, but he does not represent the tying run for the Dodgers, who trail by 3. Brantley can afford to challenge it. Ball 1. And don't forget about that runner at first. It's Butler. And if Brantley ignores him, even though his club is trailing by 3, he'll do some running. Strawberry is 0 for 3. Grounded out 3 times. And Darryl could cause this place to explode. He has hit 25 home runs. That's out of play to even the count 1-1. For this pitcher, Brantley, it's his 64th game of the year. And get some work out of him. One on, one out. That one went low for ball 2. The Giants have pulled off one double play. They'd like another here in the 8th. That's not what the Dodger faithful want. We're in the 8th inning at Houston, and the Braves are tied there 3-3. Minnesota beat Toronto, and Milwaukee beat Boston. Strawberry making him work. 3-1.
Like a spider weaves his web. That's what Strawberry has done right here. This is an ideal hitting situation. And even though Brantley has had success against left-handers this year, I don't like this matchup if I'm Roger Craig. Not with a count 3-1 to Strawberry. He's a low ball hitter, and Brantley has to throw it low to be effective.
And a ball to Thompson, and he gets the lead runner. Even though Butler was the runner, that was an excellent play by Robbie Thompson for the second out. I was thinking he'd forget all about that man, Tim, didn't you?
We have talked about this before with a runner on second base, and you're the base runner. If a second baseman has to go to the left to field the ball, it's better off going into the base standing up, because by sliding, you actually clear the way for the shortstop to catch the ball. And the reason Thompson went to second was that he saw Butler have to hold up on the ground ball, and he knew he had time.
Good point. And that puts Strawberry on and brings Eddie Murray up. And Brantley almost out of this 8th inning in relief of Trevor Wilson. Ball 1.
See, Thompson sees that Brett Butler has to hold up and allow the ball to go in front of him. So that breaks his stride. It makes him stop, and Thompson has an easy force. But if you're a runner in that situation and you go in standing up to the outside of the bag, you in effect
change the picture.
Yeah, you change the picture from a standpoint of the shortstop is concerned.
Atlanta on an RBI hit by Ron Gant takes the lead 4-3 in the 8th inning at Houston. And if the Dodgers lose and the Braves win, Atlanta will be only one game behind. So the Braves caught him, and now they've taken the lead. They scored in the 8th inning last night to win that game 4-1. Now Brantley has fallen behind Eddie Murray 2-0. Murray an RBI single plus a walk today. 2 out. And it is 3-0. And now, Tim, you look at the absence of Cal Daniels from this lineup and what an impact that has.
Yeah, of course, he would probably be facing the left-hander, but nonetheless, Cal Daniels with 17 home runs, a major cog, and he was ejected from the game in the 1st inning.
Murray, what a good hitter, man. He took a strike. 3-0. 3-1 now. With the runner at first. Strawberry and 2 out. 4-1 Giants. Home half of the 8th. They play Murray to pull. He pulls it all right. That's a hit. It would bring the tying run to the plate. Strawberry goes to third without a play. First and third, 2 out.
All the difference in the world when a hitter is ahead in the count. 3 balls and 1 strike. And Eddie Murray knows he's going to get the fastball, and he yanks it to right field.
McGee's throw into second base, and that brings Roger Craig out of the dugout. There's Murray with his 2nd hit.
It looks like he's going to make a move, and this is a key point, I think. Mitch Webster's a much better hitter as a right-hander than he is a left-hander, and I think Craig's going to bring in the left-handed pitcher, Dave Righetti.
Righetti comes in. Webster will be up. Cal Daniels is absent, and the tying run at the plate.
Pat O'Brien in New York with a pennant race update. Let's show you how Atlanta jumped ahead. Ron Gant, what a day he's having. He scores Lonnie Smith. That's his 101st RBI. Mark Lemke is thrown out at the plate, but the Braves lead it 4-3, and the pressure is on, fellas.
So the Braves, trailing by 2 at the start of the day, keep the pressure on the Dodgers. And the Dodgers have created their own pressure here. They're trailing 4-1 in the bottom of the 8th. The new pitcher, the third of the day for San Francisco, is Dave Righetti. He's 2-6 on the year with 24 saves, and he has converted 12 of his last 13 save opportunities. His opponent will be Mitch Webster.
And Webster, a much better hitter from the right side throughout his career, and this year no exception.
After entering the game in place of Cal Daniels, who was ejected in the first inning, Webster has struck out twice. And look at those figures. Adding 290 right-handed as opposed to 252. The Giants looking for that third out. And on the corner from Righetti. Webster didn't get the fastball he may have been looking for. First and third, 2 out. This might be the last Dodger chance. We're in the 8th inning. Strawberry at third and Murray at first, and the tying run at the plate. Strike 2 to Mitch Webster. Here's big Darryl Strawberry at third base, and across the way it is Eddie Murray. They run the bases with 2 out. We have a new catcher. It's Terry Kennedy, who came into the game along with Righetti with a double switch. And Righetti has Webster packed up 0-2. And slows it down. Giants 2 in the third, 2 in the 6th. The Dodgers got their only run in the 6th. 1-2. Righetti trying to save it for Trevor Wilson, who was terrific today. Then Brantley came in and got 2 outs, but surrendered the hit to Murray. Strike on the corner. Joe West punched him out. The inning is over. The Dodgers have now left 7, and the Dodgers still trail by 3, 4-1. Mike Benjamin against Kevin Gross, and a swinging strike to start the 9th as the Giants enjoy a 4-1 lead, having out-hit the Dodgers 6-4 and down in Houston. Houston batting and trailing 4-3, and Houston has the tying run at third base in that game. So still a lot to see this afternoon on Major League Baseball here on CBS. There are 2 out in the bottom of the 8th, and Houston has the tying run at third. Benjamin, you see, 0 for 3. And he pops it up. Should be 0 for 4, and it's called for by Lenny Harris, the new third baseman, was over there looking for the ball. He was way out of position. Excuse me, Offerman made the catch. Offerman takes care of Benjamin for the first out, and Lenny Harris is playing third and checking the position of the sun. Now the pitcher is up. Or are they going to bat? Oh, this is the double switch, so Terry Kennedy bats. Kennedy entered the game in the 8th and bats in the 9th. He was very happy when Florida State demolished Michigan in college football today by 20 points. And he hits it into left field, and it gets down for a base knock. Webster gets it back, a 1-out single. 7th hit for San Francisco. Houston left that man at third base, and so after 8 innings at Houston, Atlanta has a 4-3 lead. 4-3 in the 9th. Kevin Gross, second pitcher of the day for the Dodgers. Ramon Martinez started. Gave 4 runs in 7 innings. Out of play to the left by Felder, who's 0 for 4. Felder is happy Martinez is out of there. Struck out twice, grounded to first, and flied to center. They hold against Terry Kennedy. They don't really have to do that, Tim.
Nope.
1 on, 1 out.
Well, he's holding initially. He's starting out on the bag, but before the ball is released, he moves to the cutout right there in the top of your picture. So he's holding him on. The best way to play a situation like that is in the baseline. You as the first baseman just make the runner go behind you instead of playing behind him. But Eddie Murray electing to start holding him on, but before Gross delivers the ball, he moves off the line several steps.
We are in the 9th inning. There we go. And Felder pops it foul. It's still strike 2. These Dodgers can't afford to give up any more runs. We're in the 9th, and the Giants lead 4-1. And we just went through the meat of the Dodger order. Juan Samuel is going to lead it off in the 9th with Carter and then Offerman. 1 on, 1 out here. And Felder gets a piece of that one. Stays 0-2. Dom Lasorda sweating this one out. He started one of his best pitchers today. Finds himself trailing by 3 in the 9th. Roger Craig is relaxed. He's in next to last place, 18 games out of first, trying to gain some degree of satisfaction by beating the Dodgers. And Felder fans for the 3rd time this afternoon. And let's go to New York and learn about Atlanta and Houston.
All right, Jack, you talked about it. Here's the movie at Houston. 2 out, runner on 3rd. Mark Wohler strikes out Andujar Cedeno. It is still 4-3 in the 9th inning, and our eyes are on this one for you. Back to you.
Atlanta by 1 in the 9th. And we're back here to Kevin Gross and the batter Willie McGee. Tim, that Mark Wohlers is doing some pretty good work for a young pitcher for the Braves.
From Holyoke, Mass.
Holyoke,
I said it right that time?
Holyoke.
Holyoke. Okay.
My hometown. He combined with Pena and Stanton are doing the job out of the bullpen for the Atlanta Braves.
Kent Merker today with only his 4th major league start. And Jeff Juden only his 2nd major league start for Houston are both out of there.
That's the first time Felder has fanned 3 times in one game, but that's what he did. 0 for 5. McGee is up. Strike 1 to him with 2 out. McGee has a walk, and he scored ahead of Will Clark, who homered in the 3rd. And then McGee got a wasted single in the 7th inning. And a foul makes it strike 2. Now Eddie Murray at first is playing smack behind the runner, Terry Kennedy. Two out in the top of the 9th. Quiet here at Dodger Stadium, and some of the paying customers have left the scene. And the runner stays as Carter blocked the ball. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. 1-2 to Willie McGee. He helps his .314 average a little bit with 1 for 3 to this point. And he grounds it foul, keeping it 1-2. Dodgers missed a good opportunity in the 8th with 2 on, 2 out. And now Atlanta increases their lead in the 9th. Jeff Blauser hits a home run. 5-3. With Belliard out of there, Blauser able to play shortstop and contribute to the Atlanta attack. 5-3, they lead in the 9th. Up the middle to the shortstop, Offerman, and a force out, and the inning is over. That takes us into the bottom of the 9th. The Giants have left 7, but they lead it 4-1.
Pat O'Brien in New York with another pennant race update. Jeff Blauser's 11th home run of the season pads Atlanta's lead. Now 5-3 down in the Dome, and they go to the bottom of the ninth. Back to you, Jack.
Second baseman, Juan Samuel.
Samuel is 1 for 3. Giants scored 2 in the third on Will Clark's home run. Got 2 more in the 6th inning. We had a little glitch in our audio, but we're with it here. Nobody on or out. No pitches have been thrown in the bottom of the. Samuel is 1 for 3. Faces Dave Righetti. And the lefty gets ahead. Righetti struck out Webster with 2 on to end the Dodger 8th. That one is on the outside corner. That's strike 2. Samuel didn't like that one bit. Not one bit. Samuel, Carter, and Offerman due up here in the ninth. Oh, and 2. 1 and 2. If the Giants win this one, they'll be even against the Dodgers for the year. 7 wins, 7 losses. Indicative of the fact that these Dodgers will have their hands full tomorrow and next weekend, if it's meaningful, at Candlestick Park. More and more, it looks like it's going to be meaningful. 2 and 2 to 1.
Yeah, because if the Dodgers lose today and Atlanta wins, they'll be 1 game closer to being even with the Atlanta Braves. And who knows, it could force a 1-game playoff that, if held, will be held here at Dodger Stadium.
Wouldn't that be something? 2 and 2 to the leadoff hitter in the ninth. And a fly ball into short center field, misjudged for a moment by Darren Lewis, but now he gets it 1 out. Tonight on CBS, the CBS Saturday movie is Her Alibi, followed by P.S. I Love You. Her Alibi stars Tom Selleck, who's always so enjoyable. And then P.S. I Love You, another of the new CBS shows in the fall season. Tonight on CBS. P.S.
That means postscript. That means after, right? The 1-game playoff could be here at Dodger Stadium, and Los Angeles would host the Atlanta Braves if that happens. The last time it happened was in 1980 when Joe Niekro of the Houston Astros beat the Dodgers. Dave Goltz was the starting pitcher. I think it's also interesting to note that the National League has had 5 playoffs after the regular season, after either 154 games or 162, and the Dodgers have played in every single one of them.
They always seem to be involved. So whenever there's a playoff in the National League in the past, the Dodgers have been involved. 2-0 to Gary Carter.
1946, 1951, 1962, 1959, and 1980.
Carter took a strike, and it's 2-1. Righetti has retired the 2 he has faced. And Europe gets a little closer in the Ryder Cup play in South Carolina, with the U.S. leading 7.5 to 5.5 over the Europeans. Here it's a 4-1 Giant lead in the ninth, and Carter follows it 2-2. Carter batting .246 at the moment, and Righetti protecting a 3-run lead. That Williams drove in a run. The Giants stole home Darren Lewis for another run and 2 runs on the Will Clark homer. Carter pops her foul out of play. Nothing doing for Terry Kennedy. Here's where we stand here. Our line score in the bottom of the 9th, where the Dodgers only 4 hits on the day. And down in Houston, Atlanta leading 5-3 in the 9th inning. Jeff Blauser with a home run there, and Tom Lasorda at the moment it will have a 1-game lead over the Braves when the curtain comes down on the day's activities. 2-2, 3-2 with 1 out. If it stays this way, with Atlanta winning and the Dodgers losing, that's the way it'll be, and the magic number will still be 7. 3-2 here. Ball 4, and that'll bring a rise out of the crowd. And Righetti is saying to himself, why'd I do that? And Roger Craig is probably saying, how in the world can you do that?
I would imagine there will be a pinch runner for Gary Carter, and indeed it is. And you might say, why pinch run when you're 3 runs down? Well, it could be the difference in being safe at second or out at second on a forced play. That's why Tommy Lasorda has gone to the pinch runner.
And the pinch runner is Tom Goodwin. You'll see and hear more about him in the future. So Carter, who had been 0 for 3, gets on base. We have a pinch hitter for the Dodgers. Tom Lasorda sends up Stan Javier, the switch hitter. He'll bat right-handed, and he'll hit for Offerman. Javier here in the bottom of the 9th. Ball 1 to Stanley. And the Dodger fans are getting with it. Kennedy goes out to talk with us early. The pitcher is due up next. That's Kevin Gross. Gross pitched 2 scoreless innings. And it's Eric Karros. He's waiting on deck. Javier the batter. And he's going to wait until Righetti throws a strike before he starts to swing. At least he should. With his club trailing by 3. 4-1 in the bottom of the 9th. 1 on, 1 out. Righetti trying to find the strike zone again. And that's ball 3. A 1-out walk to Gary Carter. Goodwin runs for him. Out in the Giant bullpen, Don Robinson warms it up. That's ball 4. That brings a tying run to the plate, and Righetti has made this more exciting than the Giant faithful will want. That brings the pitching coach out of the dugout. And Tom Lasorda is going to wait and see what the Giants do with Righetti. Tomorrow we have the NFL Today at 12:30 Eastern. A story about Mike Ditka and a story about the Giant quarterback situation and something from Deion Sanders. He's back to football this weekend. The NFL Today at 12:30 Eastern time. The last word before kickoff, and Chicago travels to Buffalo. They're undefeated. Other good pairings. And then the doubleheader day on CBS. San Francisco against the Raiders. Most of you will see that. And Green Bay plays the Rams. Football action tomorrow on CBS. The pinch hitter is Eric Karros. He was just up from the minor leagues. This fellow swings hard. One swing, he could tie it. 2 on, 1 out. Ball 1, and Righetti still struggles with the strike zone. With 1 out, he walked Carter. Followed that up with a walk to Javier. And the pesky Butler waits on deck. And Righetti is saying, where'd the strike zone go? Tying run at the plate. 1 out. Ball 2. Is he swinging, Tim?
I would. Turn him loose. I mean, there are two schools of thought here. Number one, do you take because the pitcher has been wild? But because the pitcher has been wild, will the pitcher throw a strike with not as much on it? This guy with 22 home runs this year at Albuquerque.
Ball in at the knees. As Terry Kennedy clutched it right at the strike zone. A double play ends it and wins it for the Giants. A home run ties it for the Dodgers here in the 9th. They're 2 on, 1 out. Eric Karros, the pinch hitter. And a pickoff attempt at second base. Minnesota reduced their magic number to 1. And Milwaukee beat Boston, keeping the Red Sox 3.5 behind Toronto. Cleveland over the Yankees. Texas leading in the 7th. 2 on, 1 out. Ball 3. Ball 3. Now is he swinging? Trevor Wilson pitched brilliantly for the Giants. It's starting to slip away from San Francisco. 3 and 1, 2 on, 1 out. 3 and 2. Now that puts the young hitter under the gun. 3 and 2. Now do you start the runners to try to avoid the double play?
No, I don't think so. Take too much of a chance. You got to strike him out, throw him out, and the game's over.
Now the Astros in the 9th have runners at first and second, 1 out, as they trail by 2 at home against Atlanta 5-3. Airplane down to the field to bring about a pause in this play. Lasorda looking for the big hit from the rookie batter Eric Karros. Now there are 2 out and 2 on in Houston in the bottom of the 9th. Tying runs at first and second in Houston. Tying run at the plate here. Runners not going. Foul ball past third. Keeps it 3 and 2.
Yeah, but you're 3 runs down. You can't send the runners right now in this situation and risk Karros swinging through the ball and having an insignificant runner thrown out. You don't take that chance even at the expense of a possible double play.
3 and 2 to Karros, who just swung the bat for the first time. Down at second, Goodwin. At first, Javier. 1 out. And the tying runs are on base for Butler. Isn't this something? Here comes Roger Craig, and there goes the runner. Dave Hansen will run at first base for Karros, carrying the tying run. And it's Don Robinson going to come in out of the bullpen. He hasn't had a save since June of 1988. The bases are loaded, and Righetti has made this too exciting as far as the Giant rooters are concerned. He got the leadoff man, Samuel, and then walked the next 3. He pitched 2/3 of an inning and gives way to Don Robinson. Houston has just scored a run in the 9th.
Wow.
And they trail with 2 out in the bottom of the 9th, 5-4 in the 9th.
How many times do you see this move? Here Roger Craig bringing in a right-handed pitcher against a left-handed batter. Actually against 3 left-handed batters in a row. Butler, Harris, Strawberry. The reason Righetti lost the strike zone. And you see that Eric Karros, a big walk, only 10 at-bats in his major league career. Reminiscent of the 1963 season. It was much more dramatic when Dick Nin, and that name will live forever in Dodger history, He hit a home run that tied a game against the Cardinals, game 3 of a 3-game series, and the Dodgers went on to win that game, and Dick Nin never hit another home run. Maybe that same fate is calling for Eric Karras. Not that he'll not hit another home run, but that the walk turned out to be a big one.
Our score here, 4-1, and in the 3rd inning, after a walk to McGee, Will Clark did this. The Giants got 2 more in the 6th. Now with 3 walks by Dave Righetti here in the 9th with 1 out after the leadoff man had been retired. Hansen runs at first base for Karras, carrying the tying run. And a tough fellow to pitch to, Brett Butler coming up. But Tim, one thing we know about Don Robinson, his record is 5-9 with no saves. The one thing we know is the nerves are not going to get to this guy.
Well, you know, the same could be said of Dave Righetti. You see Righetti right there. I mean, here's a guy with 248 saves. He pitched in New York, and it's not saying that the nerves got to him today, but he did walk the bases loaded. I tell you, this is a strange 9th inning.
The fans get to their feet as Brett Butler comes up. He has walked twice, reached on an error and scored a run, and he's 0 for 2. The bases are loaded with 1 out. The outfield plays him to the left. They give him right center. He's capable of pulling the ball. And Don Robinson has no saves, and the Giants want him to get one here. Over at 3rd base is Tom Goodwin. Down at 2nd base, Stan Javier and Dave Hansen at 1st. That's the tying run. 1 out. Robinson to Butler. In for a called strike. Robinson, who used to be a big power pitcher, has refined his technique now, and he throws that split finger delivery. Strike 2 to Butler.
And that was it. That was that split finger. And with the potential tying run on first base, that's really the only guy you worry about. As a catcher, I can tell you Terry Kennedy's going to make sure, or try to make sure, that the ball stays in front of him.
Atlanta defeated Houston 5-4. The Dodgers trail here 4-1, bottom of the 9th. Bases loaded, 1 out. Strike 2 to Butler, and ball 1. We welcome the others who have been watching Atlanta beat Houston 5-4. And Atlanta stands to pick up a game in the standings if the Giants can nail down this victory. But the Dodgers have the bases loaded and 1 out here in the bottom of the 9th. Brett Butler against Don Robinson. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Ball 2. The Dodgers have to win to stay 2 games in front of Atlanta. Over at 3rd base is Tom Goodwin. The runner at 2nd is Stan Javier, and Dave Hansen runs the bases at 1st. He's the tying run with 1 out. The pitcher is Don Robinson. He is the 4th hurler of the day for the Giants. And the batter is Brett Butler, who is up there with the 2-2 count and 1 out. 4-1 Giants. And a pop fly into left field, chased by Benjamin, caught it, 2 out. And the runners stay. Bases loaded, 2 out. The Dodgers almost got lucky on the blow by Butler, but there are 2 out, and Benjamin, the shortstop, made a good play.
And I'm just guessing, but I would imagine in the Atlanta Brave clubhouse, a cheer just went up for Mike Benjamin. The Braves game is over. They won it, and now this nice play by Benjamin and the return throw holding the runners. I'll guarantee you about 50 guys in the Atlanta clubhouse are cheering right now.
Atlanta won their game at Houston 5-4. We're in the bottom of the 9th here. Tim McCarver and Jack Buck with you. 4-1, the Giants on top. Tying run at first, and Lenny Harris up for his second at-bat of this game, facing Don Robinson. Base hit loaded, 2 out. They play Harris to the opposite field. That one missed outside. This jam for the Giants came about because after the first out here in the ninth, Dave Righetti walked 3 men and loaded the bases. Lenny Harris, the hitter. Base hit loaded, 2 out. And a fly ball into center field, and Darren Lewis is there. And the Braves pick up a game on the Dodgers and trail by only 1. 4-1, San Francisco. Trevor Wilson gets the win. Ramon Martinez takes the loss. And they'll play the rubber game of the series here tomorrow with Hickerson against Mike Morgan. There's our final. And the Giants left 7. The Dodgers left 10. And now the standings. Atlanta behind by only 1. Games remaining, 7 for each club. Magic numbers still 7 for the Dodgers. Our Chevrolet most valuable player of this game is Trevor Wilson. He picks up the victory. 7 innings, 1 run, 3 hits, struck out 8 and walked 4, and he is 12 and 11. Oh, congratulations to Trevor Wilson. And the veteran Don Robinson came on and got the final 2 outs.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game has been brought to you by Toyota and the all-new totally redesigned Camry. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Fruit, the essence of man. Come on, put it on. And by Budweiser, who remind you friends know when to say when.
Well, we had some action here, and for Tim McCarver, I'm Jack Buck saying so long from Dodger Stadium. The final score was San Francisco 4 and the Dodgers 1. You've been watching Major League Baseball on CBS Sports, home of the biggest games in baseball, the League Championship Series and the World Series. The Giants beat the Dodgers 4-1. Atlanta won at Houston 5-4. The Braves trail by only 1 game.